Hi, and welcome to Chapter 3. In this chapter, we're going to talk about how to restore the immune system balance. We're going to look at the fundamentals so that when we get to specific treatments, it's much more clear why we're doing them. In the last chapter, I spoke of how the trigger for autoimmunity is actually the environment, that there is a predisposition to autoimmunity in our genetics, but without the environment triggering the genetics, there is no immune system dysfunction or autoimmunity. So our leverage point in terms of managing or relieving autoimmune conditions is with the environment. And I spoke of how the immune system reacts to food and to toxins and to microbials. And when the immune system begins to react to all of these things, that develops the dysfunction. So you get an immune system that looks sort of like this, where the immune system becomes dysregulated and immune cells begin to attack healthy tissue. There are a number of theories in physiology and medical science as to what the details of this dysfunction are. I'm going to explain it in general terms so you get just a general idea of it. Imagine that you're the immune system and that you have been bombarded by a variety of different microbes in the gut. One of these microbes is called Blastocystis hominis, and the surface proteins on this microbe resemble the surface proteins on cells in the thyroid gland. If that's the case, and if I, as the immune system, am fighting a war against this microbe, and some of my troops, some of my soldiers, in seeing the surface proteins on thyroid cells, mistake the thyroid cells for this microbe, they will begin to attack the thyroid cells. This then creates an autoimmune condition in which the immune system is attacking the thyroid, and the trigger was this microbe, Blastocystis hominis, which has been associated with Hashimoto's disease. So I, as the immune system who is fighting this microbe, Blastocystis, send out a wanted poster. And the wanted poster has this picture of this lady on the right. And so my troops are looking for this lady, and they come across this lady. And they think, oh, that's who this is. And they begin to attack this lady. Well, this is Adele, and this is an Adele lookalike. So the autoimmune system is then attacking the thyroid instead of the offending pathogen, the Blastocystis hominis. And this similarity of the cell proteins of the microbe to the cell proteins of the thyroid is what is called molecular mimicry. But it's basically a case of mistaken identity where the immune system gets confused. This autoimmune condition associated with the thyroid gland is what we call Hashimoto's disease. And as the immune system continues to attack the thyroid, initially the thyroid can actually release more thyroid hormone and create a condition called hyperthyroidism. That's not always the case, but with the attack, the thyroid can have either higher or lower levels of thyroid hormone secreted, creating either hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. And as the attack progresses, then the thyroid function declines and you get hypothyroidism. Approximately 90% of hypothyroidism in the United States is due to Hashimoto's. And the standard of care for hypothyroidism is to replace the thyroid hormones that the thyroid gland is no longer able to produce. The standard of care does not include treatment of the autoimmune condition. Rheumatoid arthritis is another common autoimmune condition that affects the joints in the body. The immune system attacks the synovial lining of the joints and tends to focus more on the extremities, like the hands and the feet and the knees, but it can affect any joint in the body. Rheumatoid arthritis has been associated with different bacteria and also with different foods. With regard to bacteria, researchers have found, for instance, that a bacteria that's associated with periodontal disease was also found in rheumatoid joints. So in this particular study, they found that a certain bacteria in the gums, and then they looked at a rheumatoid joint. This was the knee, and they found the same bacteria in the knee joint. And what is thought to be occurring is that the immune system, in trying to attack the bacteria, which it considers a foreigner, is also mistakenly then attacking the synovial membrane of the knee. This would be then a different case of mistaken identity, where you have on the right here a picture of a lady who her name is Carrie Lewis, and on the left you have Emma Watson. So Carrie Lewis represents the bacteria that has wandered into the knee joint, and the immune system is trying to get rid of Carrie Lewis, who doesn't belong in the knee, and is mistakenly attacking Emma Watson, who looks like Carrie Lewis. So another case of mistaken identity at a molecular level. We've talked about how food is an autoimmune trigger. One of the mechanisms for that is that food proteins that are not fully digested are absorbed into the body, and that they stick to our body's tissues. And this creates an immune response. The immune cells come by and recognize a foreign protein, a food protein, attached to our tissues and attack it, and that creates the autoimmune response. So I'm using the image or analogy of this nonstick pan that has all of this food stuck to it to express this concept. Here is a table that summarizes what has been discovered about how different foods tend to associate with different tissues in the body and thereby cause or can cause autoimmune reactions to that tissue when you eat that food. So on the left are the different tissues. So you have these different tissues, and then if you look in the columns as they move to the right, you see the first one here is wheat germ agglutinin. And you see how many tissues the agglutinin from wheat germ has been associated with in these studies. Then you move on to soy agglutinin and peanut, lentil, pea, and bean. Now, these associations are not universal, meaning that not everyone who eats wheat would then have a problem with their skin or their nasopharynx. These are just tendencies, and each one of us being individual in how our immune system responds might be different. But again, these are tendencies. Toxins have also been associated with autoimmune conditions. The mechanism may be similar to that of food. We're not entirely sure in all cases. But for instance, mercury has been associated with Hashimoto's disease, and there have been other associations with toxins to other autoimmune conditions as well. Stepping back to the larger picture, what we've seen in this chapter is the mechanisms by which food, toxins, and microbials can lead to immune system dysfunction, which then in turn leads to autoimmunity. In the next lesson, we'll look at how we can begin to treat and remove these environmental triggers to quiet the immune system and resolve the autoimmune attack.